Okay, so now let's start with menstrual cycle. The reproductive cycle in the female primates, means monkey, apes, and human beings, is called menstrual cycle. The first menstrual cycle begins at puberty and is called menarche. In human females, menstruation is repeated at an average interval of about 28 to 29 days, and the cycle of events starting from one menstruation till the next one is called the menstrual cycle. One ovum is released. The release of ovum is known as ovulation, and during the middle of each menstrual cycle, the major events of the menstrual cycle are shown in figure 2.9. The cycle starts with the menstrual phase, where the menstrual flow occurs and it lasts for about 3 to 5 days. The menstrual flow results due to the big breakdown of endometrial lining of the uterus and its blood vessels, which forms the liquid that comes out through vagina. Menstruation only occurs if the released ovum is not fertilized. Lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy. However, it may be also caused due to some underlying causes like stress, poor health, etc. The menstrual phase is followed by the follicular phase. During this phase, the primary follicles in the ovary grow to become a fully mature Graafian follicle, and simultaneously the endometrium of uterus regenerates through proliferation. That is why it is also known as proliferative phase. These changes in the ovary and the uterus are induced by changes in the levels of pituitary and ovarian hormone. The secretion of gonadotropins LH and FSH increases gradually during the follicular phase, and the stimulates follicular development as well as the secretion of estrogens by the growing follicles. Both LH and FSH attain a peak level in the middle of the cycle, about 14th day, and the rapid secretion of LH leading to its maximum level during the mid-cycle, called LH surge, induces rupture of Graafian follicle and thereby the release of ovum, means ovulation. The ovulation, means the ovulatory phase, is followed by the luteal phase, during which the remnant parts of the Graafian follicle transform as the corpus luteum. The corpus luteum secretes large amounts of progesterone, which is essential for maintenance of the endometrium. Such an endometrium is necessary for implantation of the fertilized ovum and other events of pregnancy. During pregnancy, all events of the menstrual cycle stop when there is no menstruation. In the absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates. This causes disintegration of the endometrium, leading to the menstruation, marking a new cycle. In human beings, menstrual cycle ceases around 50 years of age, that is termed as menopause. Cyclic menstruation is an indicator of normal reproductive phase and extends between menarche and menopause. So now it's very important to talk about menstrual hygiene. So maintenance of hygiene and sanitation during menstruation is very important. Take bath and clean yourself regularly. Use sanitary napkins or clean homemade pads. Change sanitary napkins or homemade pads every 4 to 5 hours as per the requirement. Dispose of the used sanitary napkins properly, wrapping it with the used paper. Do not throw the used napkin in the drain pipe of toilets or in the open area. After handling the napkin, wash hands with soap. So now we'll do fertilization and implantation. So during copulation, in coitus, semen is released by the penis into the vagina. It is also known as insemination. The motile sperms swim rapidly, pass through the cervix, enter into the uterus, and finally reach the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. The ovum released by the ovary is also transported to the ampullary region where fertilization takes place. Fertilization can only occur if the ovum and sperms are transported simultaneously to the ampullary region. This is the reason why not all copulations lead to fertilization and pregnancy. The process of fusion of a sperm with an ovum is called fertilization. So during fertilization, a sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum and induces changes in the membrane that block the entry of additional sperms. Thus, it ensures that only one sperm can fertilize one ovum. The secretions of the acrosome help the sperm enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. So this point is very volatile. And this can be asked in assertion and reason also. So better to keep it in mind. Now next, this induces the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte, and the second meiotic division is also unequal and results in the formation of a secondary polar body and haploid ovum. So second polar body is formed, means second meiotic division is completed after fertilization. When male and female gamete fuse, then only. If there is no fertilization, then there is no formation of second polar body. So the number of times the female gets pregnant in her life, that is the number of secondary polar body formed in her body in whole lifetime of her. Soon the haploid nucleus of the sperms and that of the ovum fuse together to form a diploid zygote. How many chromosomes will be there in the zygote? So one has to remember that the sex of the baby has been decided at this stage itself. Let us see how. As you know, the chromosome pattern in the human female is XX and that in the male is XY. Therefore all the haploid gametes produced by the female have the sex chromosome X, whereas in the male gametes sperms the sex chromosomes could be either X or Y. Hence 50% of the sperms carry X chromosomes while the 50% of the sperms carry Y chromosomes. After fusion of the male and female gamete, the zygote would carry either XX or XY depending on whether the sperm carry X or Y fertilized ovum. The zygote carrying XX would develop into a female baby and XY would be a male baby. That is why scientifically it is not correct to say that mother determines the sex of a child, because sex of the baby is determined by father and not by a mother. The meiotic division starts at the zygote, moves through the isthmus of the this is mitotic division. Zygote divides mitotically. So the mitotic division which starts at the zygote starts as the zygote moves through the isthmus of the oviduct called cleavage towards the uterus, and forms 2, 4, 8, 16 daughters cells called blastomeres. So the embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres is called as morula, and the morula continues to divide and transform into blastocyst as it moves further into the uterus. The blastomeres in the blastocyst are arranged into an outer layer called trophoblast and an inner group of cells attached to the trophoblast, which is known as inner cell mass. So the trophoblast layer that gets attached to the endometrium and the inner cell mass gets differentiated as the embryo. After attachment, the uterine cells divide rapidly and converts the blastocyst. As a result, the blastocyst becomes embedded in the endometrium of the uterus. This is known as implantation and it leads to pregnancy. So trophoblast forms the trophoblast आउटर लेयर होता है और इनर लेयर कौन सा होता है? इनर सेल मास. Trophoblast that gets attached to the trophoblast अटैच होता है एंडोमेट्रियम पे और इनर सेल मास ग्रो करता है एज एन एम्ब्रियो. Now talking about pregnancy and embryonic development. After implantation, finger-like projections appear on the trophoblast called chronic villi, which are surrounded by the uterine tissue and maternal blood. So chronic villi is surrounded by uterine tissue and maternal blood. The chronic villi and the uterine tissue become interdigitated with each other and jointly forms a structural and functional unit between the developing embryo, means fetus, and the maternal body called placenta. So placenta is formed by two interdigitation of two things. That is, one is the chronic villi and the uterine tissue. So basically trophoblast is the one which is concerned with formation of placenta. Inner cell mass is just the embryo. The placenta facilitates the supply of oxygen and nutrients to the embryo and also removal of carbon dioxide and excretory waste materials produced by the embryo. The placenta is connected to the embryo through an umbilical cord. So placenta is connected to the embryo through an umbilical cord, which helps in the transport of substances to and from the embryo. Okay. So placenta also acts as an endocrine tissue, and it produces several hormones like HCG, HPL, estrogen and progesterone, and many more hormones as well. So in the later phase of pregnancy, a hormone which is called as relaxin is also secreted by the ovary. So keep it in mind कि relaxin जो है वो ovary produce करता है. And placenta से only 4 hormones is mentioned in NCERT, that's HCG, HPL, estrogen and progesterone. So let us remember that HCG, HPL and relaxin are produced in women only during pregnancy. So if question comes that which hormone can confirm that the lady is pregnant or not, then write these hormones. 2 is from placenta and 1 is from ovary. In addition, during pregnancy, the levels of other hormones like the estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine are increased. Why increased? Because several folds in the maternal blood, because thyroxine will Thyroxine is increased because metabolism has increased in the female's body. So that is why thyroxine needs to be increased. And prolactin is increased. Why? Prolactin is increased so that the lady can synthesize, the lady's mammary gland can synthesize milk for the developing fetus, so that during parturition the female can feed her baby. And progesterone and estrogen is just for support to the endometrium. Okay. And cortisol is also increased. That is why heartbeat and all gets increased in the female's body, right? Increased production of these hormones is essential for the supporting the fetal growth, metabolic changes in the mother, and maintenance of pregnancy. So these are the three things. That's why. So keep it this in mind. Supporting the fetal growth, metabolic changes in the mother, and maintenance of pregnancy. Okay. So immediately after implantation, the inner cell mass, means the embryo, starts to differentiate. Inner cell mass differentiates into an outer layer called the ectoderm and an inner layer called the endoderm. A mesoderm soon appears between the ectoderm and the endoderm. So these three layers give rise to all the tissues, organs in adults. It needs to be mentioned here that the inner cell mass contains certain cells called the stem cells, which have the potency to give rise to all the tissues and organs. Means inner cell mass has the characteristic that it is totipotent. Totipotent means what? It can give rise to all the tissues and organs. So what are the major features of embryonic development at various months of pregnancy? The human pregnancy lasts for 9 months. Everybody knows this. Do you know why? Do you know for how many months pregnancy lasts in dogs, elephants, cats? Find out. In human beings, after 1 month of pregnancy, embryo heart is formed. So, first month, heart is formed. And first sign of a growing fetus may be noticed by listening of the heart sound carefully through the stethoscope. By the end of second month of pregnancy, the fetus develops limbs and digits. Okay. By the end of 12th weeks, means first trimester, means 3 months, most of the major organ systems are formed. Most of the major organ system, not just organ system, is also formed. For example, the limbs and the external genitalia, genital organs are well developed. The first movement of the fetus and appearance of hair on the head are usually observed during the 5th month. So 5th month में first movement is observed and appearance of hair. Appearance of hair on the head. By By the end of about 24 weeks, means the second trimester, means 6th month, the body is covered with fine hair, eyelids separate, fine hair on body, eyelids separate, and eyelashes are also formed. By the end of 9 months of pregnancy, the fetus is fully developed and is ready for delivery. So let's see how parturition, means delivery, and lactation happens. So the average duration of human pregnancy is about 9 months, which is called the gestation period. Vigorous contraction of the uterus at the end of the pregnancy causes the expulsion or delivery of the fetus. This process of delivery of the fetus, means childbirth, is called parturition. Parturition is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. The signals of parturition originate from the fully developed fetus and the placenta, which induces mild uterine contractions called the fetal ejection reflex. This triggers the release of oxytocin from the maternal pituitary. Oxytocin acts on the uterine muscles and causes stronger uterine contractions, which in turn stimulates the further secretion of oxytocin. The stimulatory reflex between the uterine contraction and oxytocin secretion continues, resulting in stronger and stronger contractions, and this leads to the expulsion of the baby out of the uterus through the birth canal, and this is also known as parturition. Soon after the infant is delivered, the placenta is also expelled out of the uterus. Okay, so placenta also expels out. The mammary glands of the female undergo differentiation during pregnancy and starts producing milk towards the end of pregnancy by the process called lactation. So this helps the mother in feeding the newborn baby. The milk produced during the initial few days of lactation is called as colostrum, which contains several antibodies. Antibodies, that is IgA. Absolutely essential to develop the resistance for the newborn babies. Breastfeeding during the initial period of the infant growth is recommended by doctors for bringing up a healthy baby.